Hello everyone, and welcome to the XR Spectrum, Defining and Applying Immersive Technologies. Our outcomes for this presentation are that we will explore what XR and immersive learning actually are and how they can be applied to education effectively. We will also explore how to evaluate these technologies and look at a VR platform that I really enjoy. This week, we are discussing XR and immersive learning. So, what is XR? XR, or extended reality, is an umbrella term that encompasses technology along a spectrum known as the virtuality continuum. This continuum was first presented in 1994 by Paul Milgram and Fumio Kishino. It can be visualized as a scale of altered realities with AR, or augmented reality, on one end, and VR, or virtual reality, on the other. AR is most deeply rooted in the physical world and can be described as an overlay into the physical world with no real interaction. In the middle, we have MR, or mixed reality, which can be defined as an overlay similar to augmented reality, with the key difference of real-time interaction being possible. And finally, VR is located entirely in the virtual world, both in location and where interactions occur. As Leah Tremosa explained in her article, Beyond AR versus VR, you can situate the technologies according to the degree of immersion they provide. The development and potential of these technologies has been deeply explored and sensationalized through multiple types of media and opened many doors to potential uses in many sectors, including education. Looking through that lens, I will explore the affordances and benefits to this technology. The biggest impact from an educational perspective is the affordance for experiences that would otherwise be dangerous, expensive, or hard to facilitate. These become attainable through the immersion and presence offered by this technology. Tremosa also stated in her article that to understand these technologies, you need to understand reality as a construct that each of us make based on what we perceive from our senses, whether what we perceive comes from the digital or the physical world. Immersion is what allows the illusion of reality. The most familiar example for most would be a VR headset. The VR headset works by completely blocking out the physical world to immerse the user in the virtual one. Immersion is important because learners will have the learning brought to them. Immersion should not be confused with presence. Presence is a result of immersion done well. It is the sensation that augmented or virtual reality is actually real. For example, given the right visual stimulus, users can experience sensations or locations. When XR elements work as they should, the learning becomes immersive. By shifting away from reading to students from a textbook or simply giving them a worksheet, opportunities arise for multimedia learning and its principles to make the learning more streamlined, as the need for the student to create a mental model is often reduced or eliminated. This lends itself well to Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning, which maintains that providing stimulus via multiple channels, as one can using these technologies, can prevent learners from splitting attention and allows them to absorb learning more efficiently. Information and models can be presented contiguously, and redundancy can be eliminated to create an environment that promotes retention and engagement. So students utilizing XR can have access to a variety of learning experiences that otherwise could not be afforded them due to safety or money concerns, and it can be presented in a way that maximizes their cognitive abilities to learn and to process. Students can also engage in more active types of learning, as this technology allows them to swap out a textbook or worksheet for manipulative and interactive learning opportunities. Students can participate in more specific areas of study, and the interactive and immersive elements can improve student interest and participation in the learning. For example, in the article Measuring the Effectiveness of Virtual Training, a Systematic Review in the journal Computers and Education, it is mentioned that VEs have been used for different types of vocational training, such as medicine, military, and firefighting. When students are interested and excited about learning, it becomes easier to empower them to bridge gaps and expand their horizons. This gives us an opportunity to reach both students that are struggling learners and those who are advanced learners. It also allows equity for some students with disabilities. This brings us to key considerations of using immersive learning. There are many XR technologies out there that do interesting things or that are fun to play with. Many schools are adopting programs that seem impactful on the surface, but after a deeper examination fail to provide rigor or results. Not all XR forums are created equally. The key factor in selecting an immersive learning tool is determining its actual effectiveness. We have to consider whether the technology will be accepted by the user and useful at meeting the needs and objectives. One of the ways that this can be evaluated is via Kirkpatrick's model of training evaluation. The 4 evaluation considerations of the model are reaction, learning, behavior, and results. By evaluating the individual's response to and outcomes from the learning, the way that new learning and skills are actually practiced, and the resulting overall outcomes, effectiveness can be determined. Another framework that can be used to assess the effectiveness of a chosen immersive learning space is the 4-dimensional framework as presented by Sarah DeFritis. The 4 pillars are the learner, the pedagogy, the context, and the representation. For this assessment framework, we have to consider what we know of the learner first, then take into account the methods being used to present the content. We then consider the situational factors, such as the environment and the tasks required. And finally, we look at the sensory coherence and the level of immersion. Taking these factors into account can help educators to determine if an XR platform is an effective tool or just a cool toy. With all of this in mind, I began exploring different XR programs. I considered the potential uses for students as well as effective applicability in my own work in high school English. Many of the platforms are geared more towards STEM, but I was initially inspired by Google Expedition, which is an offering that allows students to attend virtual field trips. As I dove more into that topic, I actually found something similar and much closer to home. I frequently use Nearpods in my classroom practice, but had no idea that they also offer immersive VR lessons that include a variety of activities. A common struggle in my literature classes is getting students interested in context setting. When exploring the time period or context surrounding a novel, students do not really connect with the history or the facts. These VR lessons, however, provide students with a variety of activity types that have them directly involved with the content. So let's say I was about to introduce a new novel unit. I could then set up a VR field trip that would build lasting knowledge of the situations and events surrounding that novel. Students can visit virtual models of real environments, solidify understanding by interacting with maps and documents, and collaborate together, all in one virtual hub. Students move from being passive receivers of information to active investigators of time and place. It also allows for understanding to be represented in a variety of ways. Gamified activities can be provided just as easily as more formal forms of assessment. The active learning and self-driven discovery afforded by this VR platform is an excellent example of a place immersive learning can thrive. In conclusion, when selected carefully using proper evaluation techniques, XR and immersive learning have the potential to provide impactful learning opportunities to students. The shift from sit and get type lessons and towards active ownership of the learning experience is a powerful one. In this presentation, we discussed what XR is, as well as the affordances and instructional benefits, immersive learning and considerations for design and evaluation, and also a VR that I have recently discovered and feel really excited about. Thank you for joining me.